The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Efforts made by Georgia in the direction of European integration are visible. Our population expects that the achievements of Georgia will be reflected in the decisions of the European Union, which is very important, the mayor of the capital, Kaka Kaladze, said at the Tbilisi City Hall meeting when talking about the Prime Minister's visit to Brussels. Commercial banks operating in Georgia have already submitted their financial reports for the first quarter of 2023 to the National Bank of Georgia, NBG. According to the total data, the sector received 2 billion interest and non-interest income this year, which was 20% more than the previous year. Banks earned 588 million lari net profit from the received income, which was an annual growth of 42%. Georgia improved the Logistics Performance Index LPI by 40 points based on the 2023 World Bank report. Georgia moved from the 119th to 79th position, scoring 2.7 among 160 countries globally. Georgia improved its position in almost every component of the index: efficiency of the clearance process, quality of trade and transport-related infrastructure, international shipments, competence and quality of logistics services, and timeliness of shipments in reaching a destination within the scheduled or expected delivery time. IRI published the 2023 National Public Opinion Survey of Georgian residents. The survey showed that the vast majority of Georgians support joining the European Union. 86% of respondents answered they fully or somewhat support Georgia's EU membership. Georgian citizens are against Russian citizens' presence in Georgia, with 79% responding that they do not support Russians buying real property, business registration, and visa-free stay in the country. Georgian citizens demonstrate low trust in political parties. 42% of those interviewed said that none of the political parties represent their interests, and 78% want to see more youth in Georgian politics. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Manjilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. Kelly Degnan, a career member of the Senior Foreign Service with the rank of Minister Counselor. She arrived in Tbilisi on January 29, 2020 to serve as U.S. Ambassador to Georgia. During her almost 30-year career, Ambassador Degnan has focused on political and political military affairs. She was the Deputy Chief of Mission and Chargé d'Affaires ad interim in Rome and Pristina, and also served overseas at the U.S. embassies in Botswana, Pakistan, and Turkey. Ambassador Degnan was the senior civilian representative to Brigade Combat Team Salerno in Khost, Afghanistan, where she earned the Secretary of State's Expeditionary Service Award, one of many awards she has received throughout her career. Ambassador Degnan was also the political advisor to the 4-star commander of U.S. Naval Forces Europe and U.S. Naval Forces Africa, and the political counselor at the U.S. mission to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In Washington, D.C., Ambassador Degnan served as the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Department of State under Secretary John Kerry, as a Special Assistant to Secretary Albright, and as a Special Assistant to 3 Undersecretaries for Political Affairs, Mark Grossman, William Burns, and Nicholas Burns. Ambassador Degnan is from California. She earned a degree in journalism from Northwestern University Medill School of Journalism and a law degree from the University of Southern California Law Center. Before joining the Foreign Service, she worked as both a journalist and a lawyer. As an attorney, she served as legal counsel in the Federated States of Micronesia and the Republic of Palau while navigating the Pacific on her sailboat. She speaks Italian and French, has studied Turkish and Urdu, and is learning basic Georgian. The Checkpoint sat down with Her Excellency Kelly Degnan prior to her departure from Georgia, since her term expires soon.
Thank you so much for your time. First of all, thank you that I think we cannot say that it's been a while Well, we met Ambassador Tegnam because just Saturday, Power of Now, organized by Forbes Woman Edition. Thank you so much for attending.
It was great.
Everybody was so much happy and sharing all these stories. How important is to have such networking, Madam Ambassador, in our country, sharing such values and organize such events?
Well, thank you first for inviting me today for this chat. I thought that was a wonderful program on Saturday. There was such positive energy there, but also that sharing of experience that I think is a motivating factor for a lot of people, at whatever stage of your career you're at, to hear that how others are dealing with setbacks, turning them into positive motivation to keep moving forward. As I said, I think it's the power of turning a no into a yes for your own personal path or sometimes for a business deal or whatever. And I think it's important to network not only within the country, but also internationally. And that's what I think Forbes and others are able to do, is to build these networks worldwide that are so important. My one hope is that each time these will become more mixed, so that there are men and women coming to these conferences. Sometimes it's important for women to discuss the challenges that they face, but I think right now we're at a stage where it's really important for men to understand how much they benefit from having mixed gender boards of directors or management that is a better reflection of gender diversity. So I think that will make the conversation next year even richer, is to have the input from all the citizens of Georgia who are facing some of these same challenges.
Exactly. Hopefully next time they will buy tickets. Men will also buy tickets.
My suggestion was for every woman to bring
yes,
a man.
I remember that.
And I think that that's a nice way to do it, because then it's friends who are helping friends.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Probably I will proceed with one big power of no that was translated into yes, and that was Georgian citizens taking streets in a rally against the so-called law on agents and Russian law, as we call it. That day, you said it was a dark day for Georgia's democracy. Not a typical phrase coming from a diplomat, from at least what I could say. Why did you decide that it was time to be clear on what was going on with that law in Georgia?
When we look at the impact of a similar law in Russia, what we see is the devastating effect it had on civil society. The organizations in Russia that are designed to help a wide variety, not just building democracy or strengthening institutions, but strengthening media, strengthening opportunities for minorities. All of these organizations, for the most part, have had to either shut down or leave Russia because of the impact of the same kind of law that was under consideration here. And I think that woke everybody up to the risk that this presented to Georgia's civil society. I've had the privilege of traveling around this country and meeting with many, many NGOs. And these are Georgian citizens who are working very hard to improve their own communities. Sometimes it's benefits for the families of people with disabilities, or young people who are looking for opportunities that will open doors for them in the future. It can be agricultural cooperatives and farmers associations that are bringing together different sectors of the economy to make sure that they can weather crises, or that they can diversify their markets. I mean, these are all extremely important to Georgia's society and to its development and to its strength. To have those organizations put at risk by a Kremlin-inspired law that, as far as we could tell, was serving no purpose, was, I think, of great concern to the United States, but also to Georgians themselves. And we saw that when over 100,000 Georgians came out onto the streets in Tbilisi, Batumi, Kutaisi, Khalsike to say, we don't want this. We want Europe. We want a European future where our freedoms and our democracy is protected. That was a very strong message. That was a brilliant day for Georgia.
Yes, that was no turned into yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes, but some said that this was also an example of polarization. So I would like to use this opportunity with you, Madam Ambassador, to clear up some notions that we see in these 12 points. What does depolarization mean? Because when you understand notions, then you know how to act, right? So I think it is important to define depolarization. What does that mean?
Well, I think that's a good point, and depolarization is something that many countries are facing right now in different ways. Every citizen has an opportunity to contribute to depolarizing this situation, to unifying the country. And I think the media as well can play a very important role by ensuring that the coverage of news is accurate and balanced. And I think in Georgia that has become difficult for the Georgian citizens to find accurate, balanced reporting of the news. This creates confusion, this creates division, and the only one, as we've said many times, who benefits from this is Russia. Russia wants a weak, divided Georgia. And you've seen that over the centuries, how that is then used against Georgia to distract Georgia from important priorities, but mostly to distract Georgia from the strength that comes from unity. Zala Ertubashia. I mean, it's right there in your motto. And I do think that Georgia has a clear roadmap as a result of these 12 priorities, but even beyond that, as a result of the clear choice of the Georgian people for a European future. That's the roadmap. That's the roadmap. And every step along that way involves strengthening Georgia's democratic institutions, strengthening its economy, strengthening its security so that people feel a sense of security, and bringing people together around this common cause of a European future.
Maybe another reason why our internal or external enemies are using effectively all kind of tools against this society is its own economic development. I'm talking about the country itself. We still could not reach the milestone of becoming richer country. And I do understand where business media, economy and business is driven by more and more, but we also want some more at the same time. But still Georgia is poor. How crucially important is further economic development, and could you identify during your ambassadorship of those programs which were implemented? I'm also talking about 30-year anniversary, what USAID is doing, this fabulous team for this country.
Well, Nabij. I think it's very important not to forget how far Georgia has come in 30 years. And it's quite impressive progress that Georgia has made through the very hard work of Georgian citizens to build that economy, to build a better standard of living for the people. Now, clearly, I agree there's much more to do, and I feel a real commitment to that progress. And that is certainly what the United States has been trying to support Georgia on this path to better security, better, stronger economy and stronger democracy. We're convinced that that is what is the formula for Georgia's success, for Georgia's stability, and ultimately for raising the standard of living for Georgians across the board. We have been fortunate to partner with the government and private sector and civil society on a number of important projects. I think just Monday I was at the launch of Skills Week, which is something that the U.S. has partnered with Georgian government on to help ensure that students coming into the workforce have the right skills that industry needs so that they can come into good, high-paying jobs that will lead to a rewarding career. What we want to see is exactly what you said, a continuing increase in the standard of living for Georgians, the ability to provide for their families and to have rewarding careers. Starting even with the support to the Ministry of Education and basic education, developing critical thinking skills, developing English language skills, skills that will open doors to new opportunities for Georgians in the workplace, whether it's vocational education or university level graduate education, more research and development, introducing and strengthening these components to the education sector that then lead to better jobs and a higher standard of living. I feel very optimistic about the economic future here. We've seen a very strong economic performance over the last 2 years. Granted, some of that is the result of higher remittances. Some of it's the money flow as a result of Russia's attacks against Ukraine. But some of it is the result of very good fiscal and monetary management by the National Bank, by the Ministry of Finance, by the Ministry of Economy. And I think that kind of good management of Georgia's economy will be very important going forward. We've also seen organizations like the American Chamber of Commerce that have been excellent partners in developing a positive business environment here in Georgia. And again, that is an aspect of civil society that is contributing in important ways to Georgia's stability and economic growth.
But Madam Ambassador, do you also see what you just mentioned in terms of the context of the economy, the risk of becoming, again, over-dependent on Russia's economy? Because that's one of the risks or one of the challenges that's ahead of officials that say that right now one of the main goals for Georgia is unfortunate war, and one of the main spillover effects of Georgia is not to become
I agree with you. That would be a major setback. Georgia has invested a lot of effort in diversifying markets, in finding new markets for Georgian products where they can sometimes sell at a higher price, their products. But most important is reducing that dependence on Russia. Now, you're never going to eliminate that. No one's suggesting that. It's been an important trade partner. But Georgia has seen throughout its history that Russia can use that dependence as leverage to control or retaliate against Georgia. And what we saw in previous years is real success that Georgia was having in diversifying its markets, finding really quite stable and profitable new markets that I think in 2022, the dependence on Russia had dropped by 66%. So that's quite significant. It takes focus and concentration to continue that momentum to find new markets. But it is 100% in Georgia's interest to reduce its dependence on Russia for agriculture, for energy, for some of the sectors that maybe it's been easier to go to Russia, but it's not the only choice. And I think the effort needs to continue to diversify away from Russia, to give Georgia more flexibility and not be hostage to Russia's retaliation through trade.
Reach new markets. We have a new hashtag with joint campaign together with USAID, so we will launch it quite soon. Reach new markets.
That's great.
That's how,
That's great.
that's how we can move forward. As Madam Ambassador mentioned, nobody can eliminate our geographical situation right today. So
Of course,
that
Russia will be
exist.
there. But I remember once Kaka Bendukidze said, you know,
Which one?
maybe one day you will not start thinking that in the north there is Russia. Maybe you will think there is a big blue sea. So maybe that's one way of not to think about Russia. How could candidate country status help us in what we have been discussing right now? Because I had this interview with Mr. Venkataraman, and he said a very brilliant phrase. He said, you know, start taking real steps towards 12 points, and you will see American business interest growing towards Georgia. Do you see this direct link there, Madam Ambassador?
Absolutely, absolutely. The 12 points, the association agreement, all of these are, as I said, a clear roadmap for Georgia. Follow those steps, and Georgia will be opening up to so many more opportunities. It's like the seal of approval. If you're on that way, people say, okay, they're committed to a transparent judiciary that offers real rule of law. They're committed to a level business playing field. They're committed to democracy. They're committed to the freedoms that are required to have a truly predictable and functioning and flourishing economy. So it's like a shorthand for saying Georgia is on the right track. What I think is important for the Georgian people is to understand what it will bring to them, how European Union, this path that Georgia is on toward a European future will improve their quality of life. It's not just the programs that Georgia will become eligible for through the European Union. It's the connections with Europe and Europeans. You've seen that over the centuries because Georgia has always been facing toward Europe, always had the ties to Europe, and that has been a source of not just business development, but educational exchange, science and research exchanges. That needs to just become a smaller and smaller world so that Georgia is even more fully integrated into Europe. As we see in other countries that have joined the European Union or on that path, they're more stable, their GDP goes up, they're more prosperous. For the average citizen, there are these kinds of benefits: education, security, economy, all the things that Georgia is striving for and has been working for over the years comes with that closer connection to the European Union and NATO on the security side as well.
It's almost a year and a half world after the crazy pandemic situation is facing another pandemic called war in Ukraine, which is unfortunately to everybody, mostly Ukraine, is rather disastrous, the pandemic itself. Madam Ambassador, since then, whole world is facing another economic relations which is quite appropriate during previous periods, called sanctions. Sanctions against Russia, sanctions because of war. At the same time, we all know that it's a quite difficult issue to implement. And to be more precise, at the same time, what I'm trying to follow, including Ambassador James O'Brien, I mean, everybody who is involved in this, and at the same time, me, myself, as a citizen of Georgia, I do realize that we are one among those countries which are bordered with Russia, which will always might have some suspicious, I don't know how to say. At the same time, you were always precise in your comments within these previous months about the coordination with Ministry of Finance and its agencies, about your coordination with Prosecutor Office and Ministry of Interior. I do remember all these comments. How Georgia should proceed, how Georgia should proceed in this very vulnerable, full of volatilities, full of suspicious period, when, I don't know, somebody might say that Georgi and Elena are trading with Georgian Coca-Cola somewhere in Russia or something like that. Yeah, well, no, but actually, is there some sort of recipe for this already established, how countries which are bordered with Russia, with a small part, but still bordered with Russia, and we do have such regions as Abkhazia and South Ossetia. So there are a lot of problems. What's your opinion in this regard?
This is where the long partnership that the United States has had with Georgia, I think, really comes into play. Because we've been working with the Customs and Revenue Services, we've been working with the Coast Guard, we've been working with most of the government agencies in Georgia for years and years on training, on providing modern equipment to help Georgia know what is coming in and going out across your borders. This is for Georgia's security. And now we have the even larger issue of trying to stop Russia's war machine, which is how the war continues. I mean, it's a crucial element of stopping Russia's war against Ukraine to prevent Russia from being able to resupply its military. And we see that. We see how they are using everyday items like cell phones or washing machines to get the components that to evade sanctions so they can get the components they need for missiles that are then being used to blow up schools and hospitals and apartment buildings. So it's really crucial. This is lives at stake. And we are very grateful for the close cooperation that we've had with the Georgian authorities on this, because they understand too what is at stake. Ukrainian safety, Ukrainian lives, but also Georgia in terms of the threat that you've lived with since 2008 and before, with Russia having invaded your country and tried to take your sovereignty and your identity away from you. So I think there's a real conviction among the Georgian authorities that we work with that Georgia does not want to be part of the the process of allowing Russia to continue this war against Ukraine. It's quite complicated, though, as you point out, and what it means that we need even tighter coordination, better communication, so that we have a good picture, region-wide, on what's coming in and out, and how Russia is evading the export controls and sanctions. So I think we will continue to see that close coordination. Just last week in Batumi, we had an equipment donation to the Customs Service. We also just launched the Maritime Single Window Program. Again, this will improve the efficiency of Georgia's ports, port operators, customs and revenues, to know what is coming in and out, to be able to track containers as they come in and out. All of this is real progress.
And this coordination goes on.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The latest rumor, you know what it is? The latest rumor about Georgia. We're repairing in Georgia, in Tbilisi, that this territory is owned, the governmental territory, that there's a plot of land which is repairing, when I'm ambassador, aviation small parts TAM Management, called the company, which is repairing old Soviet, and all this done is together with Ukraine.
So this is in support of Ukraine.
Yeah, correct.
See, there are many ways that Georgia has been trying to.
But at the same
help.
time, there was a rumor that we're repairing for Russians.
Well, I hope that's not the case.
No, it's
And
not.
You mentioned the communication, right? And better communication is something that we always seek from the government officials. Sometimes I have cognitive dissonance because on the one hand I hear the rhetoric that, for example, West wants a war in the country, and then on the other hand I see how the government is working on the project of Black Sea Cable, for example, which will be a joint effort and joint initiative of Georgia and EU. The same goes with the US in many cases, and we've seen some of the examples, including Anaklia Port and City, which you called missed opportunity once, and I remember that phrase also. Maybe that's the problem. On the one hand, saying that we don't know whether we are connected with international sanctions or not, and on the other hand, trying not to evade these sanctions.
Cognitive dissonance is the perfect term, because that is exactly what this propaganda that is bombarding Georgia is trying to create: confusion, a sense of distraction, so that citizens here don't know what the truth is and find it hard to sort out all the different rumors and disinformation that is flooding the society here. I know this is something that Georgians are used to from Russia for a long, long time, but it does seem to be particularly intense right now because obviously Russia wants to keep, as I said, Georgia weak and divided and distracted and fighting amongst yourselves. And it's why I put such an emphasis on the role of the media to provide that balanced, accurate information that the people desperately need and want. You find people looking elsewhere for information, but again, I think what needs to come through is a clear understanding for this society about what their country is doing, the role that Georgia is playing. Everyone understands the unique position that Georgia is in because Russia occupies 20% of your territory, because Russia pressures Georgia all the time to keep a sense of fear, really, and confusion. So no one is expecting Georgia to do more than this country is comfortable doing when you're in a difficult situation. And what Georgia is doing is, again, greatly appreciated. So I think the continued effort on helping citizens sort out the truth from all of this propaganda that is just relentlessly coming at them is the key.
And probably the last question. One advice you would, yes, of course. Let us not fight. But one advice that you would derive from the very, let me say, complex experience that you've had with working in Georgia in quite tough period of time. Let us be honest. All these geopolitical shifts and Georgia being in the middle of it, whether it wants it or not. Basically, so what would be one advice to the ambassador who will be coming to Georgia?
Well, Elena, this has really been a wonderful experience. Georgia is a fascinating country, even if you're just looking at the past, but looking at where Georgia is now and the opportunities that are opening up and the determination of the Georgian people to have that European future that you've been building for in some ways centuries, I think is very exciting. And it's been the highlight of my time here to visit Georgians all over the country and feel that energy, feel their commitment to carrying their country forward to a European future. The initiatives, the creativity, but really just that determination, that sense of determination that you are going to achieve this goal of a secure, prosperous, democratic Georgia that is integrated into the European family of nations. I'm just so optimistic for the country's future. And the United States is going to be there with you, just as we have for the last 30 years, for the next years to come as you take these important steps. We know these are difficult reforms, these are difficult processes and procedures, and we want to do everything we can to continue to support you because we want to see Georgia succeed. That will be the best gift that we could ever receive. Thank you.
This might be the best end of this interview, but as I told you, I still have one question. Sure. I will merge it. Madam Ambassador, it's definitely the final interview of Ambassador Dagnan in Georgia with us. I want to ask you about the biggest fail and the biggest achievement while your ambassadorship here, and at the same time, I want to speak up about the new ambassador to Georgia also. So that's definitely the final question.
Okay. All right. Well, I am sorry that I didn't see more of a reduction in the polarization. I was hopeful at different points in the time that I've been here where especially the political leadership did seem like they were overcoming their differences in order to be able to at least work together in Parliament. This reflex of boycotting Parliament for one reason or another, I hope that Georgia gets past that because the Parliament is designed to bring together parties with different viewpoints. It's not designed to all have the same view of things. It's the place where the different voices of Georgia come together and debate the issues and decide and agree on what's in the best interests of the country as a whole. So I guess I'm disappointed that there is still the level of polarization here, and maybe that some of the mechanisms that Georgia has built over the years are not yet being fully utilized. In terms of successes, again, as my personal success, I would just say that feeling that this country cannot be stopped because the people of Georgia so clearly know and are so determined to achieve the goals that they have set for this country of being a secure, prosperous democracy in Europe. And that I'm going to be watching Georgia, of course, with great enthusiasm as you make those steps forward and that progress continues. And I know that the United States will be there, whether it's me or the next ambassador, supporting your efforts all the way. And Ambassador Designate Dunnigan is one of our finest diplomats. She's very experienced. She has a lot of experience in the energy sector, which I think will be great for continuing our partnership with Georgia on developing renewables, improving energy efficiency, and also reducing Georgia's dependence on Russia, reducing Georgia's dependence on Russia for energy. So I think you're getting one of our best, and I know she is going to have a wonderful time here, just as I have.
Your favorite content, energy independence. So, new ambassador is going to be your favorite.
Yes, my favorite.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
What was new in business this week? In a detailed weekly business news and outlook, on to our reporter Natia Taktakishvili.
Two real buyers are interested in the penthouses located in the multifunctional project of Central Park Towers. According to Block Group managing partner Tornike Janashvili, negotiations are already underway with the customers. The investment value of the multifunctional project amounts to $300 million, which is being built on Ghazbegi Avenue. It includes two 42-story towers. The multifunctional complex is a joint investment project of Orbi Group and Block Group. According to Tornike Janashvili, price for per square meter totals to $20,000. The area of each penthouse is over 400 square meters with its own patio veranda. The ceiling height is 6 meters and it has a private parking. We have already signed a contract with Radisson Blu, and these penthouses will benefit from the service of the international brand, Tornike Janashvili said. Negotiations between Calvin Klein Georgia and Dress Up Group was successfully completed, and the exclusive right on the Calvin Klein brand in Georgia was transferred to Dress Up Group. This was a significant agreement implemented with full protection of the business interests of the two companies, as a result of which Dress Up Group will take over the management of the brand in Georgia with the exclusive right and will further develop it through the expansion of the store chain, says Teona Goderidze, General Director of Calvin Klein Georgia. The Calvin Klein brand entered the country for the first time in 2017, and as a result of 6 years of successful operation, it's represented with two official stores in Georgia, Galleria Tbilisi and City Mall Saburtalo. Black Sea Arena is launching a wide-scale campaign in Georgia branded as Starring Georgia. The main goal of the campaign is to promote the country and to boost its tourist, economic and cultural potential. Within the scope of the new campaign, concerts will be held in Shekwatili, Tbilisi and other locations, apart from the Black Sea Arena. According to the representatives of the tourist companies, the planned concerts will have a positive effect on the tourist flows in the country. The sector expects that Georgia will be mostly visited from the neighboring countries. A very large flow of tourists will come from our neighboring countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkey and Russia. Moreover, it's the period of August and probably too many combined tours will be made, which will include the concerts as well. Anastasia Gabunia, founder of Art Travel, declares the government will spend 70 million lari on the project Starring Georgia for the next 2 years. Perfume Vaho 65 will soon be sold in the perfume shop Lutetia, and the proceeds from the sale will be transferred to the Vakhtang Phakadze's charity fund. Vakhtang Phakadze's daughter Natia Phakadze spoke about this while visiting TV program Women's Narrative. According to her, the idea of creating a perfume came to her at the exhibition held in Cannes in October 2021, and she decided to create a perfume for her father's anniversary. As she noted, Tiziana Teresa liked the idea, and after a year and a half, finally the perfume was created. Currently, a total of 715 bottles of perfume are produced, and customers can buy two varieties, Vaho and Vaho 65. The perfume is unisex. Vakhtang Phakadze, founder of Lutetia, died from COVID-19 in 2020. General Director of Shopping Center Gdani Mall Beso Tetwadze said that the occupancy rate of commercial spaces in Gdani Mall improved in 2023 compared to 2022. According to him, rental prices for tenants have not been adjusted this year. In addition, as Beso Tetwadze points out, the tenants don't ask for a grace period, which indicates to the revival of business. In 2022, Gdani Mall's sales returned to the pre-pandemic rate. 97% of the mall commercial spaces are occupied, and only 2-3 objects are left for the rent. Among the tenants, apparel stores dominate, explained the general director of Gdani Mall. According to him, in 2019, 40% of the mall was closed. Today, Gdani Mall has 155 tenants. The official uniform of Khvicha Kvaratskhelia from the Italian football club Napoli will be sold on valistore.g for the first time in Georgia. On valistore.g, customers can find both adult and children's uniforms, caps, balls and polos created by the well-known designer Imperio Armani. The price of Napoli original uniforms ranges from 150 lari to 350 lari. Georgi Ramishvili, the head of Silk Road Group, told the media that SilkNet is almost ready to receive 5G frequency and they are planning to start pilot projects in the near future. We have got 4.9G right now, which is what we are operating on now, and that's actually very little behind the 5G. When the regulator sets these frequencies, if it's a good and correct proposal, of course we will get involved, Georgi Ramishvili says. According to him, the involvement of the state is also necessary for implementation of 5G. Both operator companies and the state should do this. Along with that, the number of mobile phones that support 5G should increase. At this stage, their number is too small, says the head of SilkNet Group. Winery Velino in Sagarejo region will add wine testing and restaurant spaces to the cellar. According to Beka Jimshelidze, founder of the wine cellar, active construction is being carried out at this site. The current year will be devoted to the expansion of the winery, and soon we will be able to offer the customers a wine tasting space as well as a restaurant in Sagarejo. The founder plans to include the construction of a hotel in the same area, he said. In addition, the founder noted that the brand exports wine to 13 countries since 2019, including America, Canada, Belgium, Denmark, Australia, and other countries. Velino appeared on the Georgian market in 2016 and offers 7 types of wine to the customers. The company produces 20,000 bottles of wine per year, and 80% of the wine is exported abroad.
Back in 2022, the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, announced that it will open an office in Georgia. Company's plans appear to be solid as Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhao, discussed the plans with Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, his cabinet members, and the Vice Governor of the National Bank of Georgia. Last week, several months after the announcement, BMG's Business Evening anchors Georgi Aroni and Georgi Tolordava interviewed Glenn Kostarev, Regional Director of CECIS Turkey, Australia, and New Zealand at Binance. They talked extensively about Binance's Georgian operations and its international plans.
Hi, today our guest is Gleb Kostarev, the regional head of CECIS Turkey and ANZ of Binance. Gleb, hi, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to have you here in this Forbes Georgia office.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Gleb, let's begin our interview with going back a little bit in time. Back in 2022, you met with the Prime Minister of Georgia and his cabinet. Let's recap that meeting. What did you discuss?
Yeah, it was a great meeting. So CZ met with the Prime Minister and a number of other officials at the government. So we discussed, what Binance can do for Georgia, how Georgia is open to, crypto industry, what's government view on that, and how we can collaborate together. So that was, the main point of our meeting.
Gleb, almost half a year has passed since that meeting, and what did Binance do during this time in Georgia?
Yeah, so during this time, so we started to collaborate with a number of universities. We made a couple of hackathons, so we started to look for local blockchain startups that potentially we can support in different ways, right? We work closely with some banks in terms of what we can do, like Binance Card, some fiat channels, etc. So actually we did pretty good job since that time, and we will definitely continue to do to put more efforts in our regional hub. And actually only recently we announced that Georgia will be one of our hubs in Eastern Europe, Central Asia. Yeah.
So did you open an office in Georgia yet, and how many employees based in Georgia do you employ currently?
Yeah, we had a small office here right now, but we'll definitely are going to to expand. Yeah, exactly. In terms of employees, so we have I think around a dozen of employees here right now, but we're also discussing right now to relocate more global, like guys from other countries, and we definitely will hire more people here.
That's great to hear. And let me ask you one weird question. Are your employees getting paid in fiat currency or in cryptocurrency?
Actually, it all depends on the local situation with the licenses. Because, for example, when you have license, and if there will be like VASP license of Binance in Georgia, so there will be definitely some specific requirements in terms of how you should pay to your employees. Most likely, if you will have like license, you will have to pay in fiat.
Yeah.
It's good that we talked about licenses, because my next question is about that. During your meeting with the Prime Minister and his cabinet, Mr. Papun Alejava, the Vice Governor of National Bank of Georgia, was also there. And as we know, NBG has already passed, and together with the Parliament, the regulation. Now we're expecting the guide rule book to be published soon, probably sometime in summer. So let me ask you this. Did Binance participate in any way in the lawmaking process?
So we definitely gave our recommendations, to central bank and to the government in terms of how, like, what are the best practices that we see in the world, and gave some of our recommendations. But it will be also important for us to see like the final guidebook in terms of VSP, because it's important for us to understand what to do next.
What's your general approach about the regulation here in Georgia that the NBG, together with the Parliament and the government, has initiated?
Yeah, so overall, from our understanding, the approach of the government and regulators, it's, I would say, it's closer to MiCA, to European one, right? And actually today, MiCA finally passed the Parliament in Europe, so it will be implemented. And we think, and overall, we think that like MiCA, it's a pretty pragmatic approach in terms of regulation of cryptocurrencies. So like we are pretty supportive of that, and like if Georgia continue to like implement like MiCA's I would say standards, I think it's it will be pretty beneficial for the country and local economy, because MiCA is focusing on like some QIC, AML guidance, right? How to prevent like scams and frauds to happen, and of course it's very important for the industry to grow.
Binance is a uniquely big player on the market. I want to take your opinion about this regulation and how it will affect some smaller players, in your opinion. Is this regulation some sort of baseline, or it could be rigid for some companies?
Yeah, it's some kind of like baseline. Still, at the national level, there can be like additional, for example, requirements to exchanges. So yeah, I would say that there will be some flexibility for like, for specific countries if they want like to implement something additionally. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your general outlook for Georgia? What will Binance do in the short and long-term future here?
Yeah, we definitely will continue to work closely with financial institutions, fintechs, in order to make some joint products that Georgians can use. We definitely will explore more an opportunity to issue Binance card here, but maybe it's not like very like near future, like maybe in a year or something like that, right? We definitely will try to build strong fiat channels here. We will continue to develop our BNB chain and support of other blockchain projects here. And overall, we see when Binance, is entering some market and starts building some kind of hub, other companies, they usually also go to the country. So we hope that our presence here will help, to attract other cryptocurrency, businesses as well. And overall, it will help the economy, in taxes, in terms of employment. So yeah, I would say that it will be some kind of combined effect.
Before you proceed with the general outlook, I want to ask you a small question about Binance Card. Could you elaborate a little bit? What benefits will it bring to the Georgian customers?
Yeah, so usually Binance Card, it's like just like a simple debit card, right? But it is connected to your Binance account. So if you want to go and you can go and pay for any goods and services with this card. And when you're paying, you're not like paying in crypto, right? There is some kind of
Transfer from
Yeah,
cryptocurrency to fiat currency.
processing, right? So you pay actually in lari, but for crypto enthusiasts, it's a great tool, right? You don't need to use fiat channels to get lari to your banking account or in cash, right? You can just continue to keep crypto on your account and pay with this card.
I would like to add about lari. Currently, National Bank of Georgia is developing CBDC, digital lari. Are you in some ways involved in this project?
In terms of CBDC, not really, because CBDC it's a bit different from
traditional blockchain,
from
right?
traditional blockchain. But of course, we always open to give our recommendations because we see some trends, some global trends. But again, we're a blockchain company, right? And crypto it's a bit different from CBDC. CBDC it's more about direct access of users to, so users will keep their funds at central bank. So CBDC is about that, and that banks are not really needed as intermediaries. But again, there are different concepts. Some concepts, within those concepts, CBDC can be based on blockchain, right? Within other test pilots, blockchain is not needed. So I think right now, I would say it is the future, but still some time should pass because nobody actually issued CBDC yet as
only pilot projects in
only
China.
pilot projects, only pilot projects, but not
not large scale tests.
Yeah, not large scale.
Yeah.
What's your general outlook about CBDC in general?
I think it will definitely replace cash. Yeah, but I don't think that it will kill crypto because crypto is right now it's more than just transferring funds of value, right? Right now we have NFTs, we have DeFi, GameFi. So I don't think that those areas will be affected in any way by CBDC.
All right, let's talk about in Binance about Binance in general. What are the areas you are covering, and could we say that Binance is more than just a crypto exchange?
Yeah, Binance definitely right now is more than crypto exchange. We have a huge range of different products, right? Not only spot and futures trading platforms, but we also have our own wallet solution. It is called Trust Wallet. Yeah, we have Binance Card. We have CoinMarketCap. It's one of the most popular websites, in terms of crypto in the world, right? There is BNB Chain, and we have our own token BNB, right? So I would say that it's a huge ecosystem. Actually, our final goal is that if any people they want to go and find out some information or get any product in crypto, they can just go to Binance.com.
And they will get full service.
Yeah, and we also have Binance Academy. It's a great tool. It's completely free. You can go there and you can learn about a lot of things. It can be what's blockchain, and there can be also much more sophisticated topics such as, what's front running. So yeah, it's completely free. So anyone can use it.
That's great. So what is the role of a BNB token in Binance's ecosystem?
Yeah, so BNB token, it's some kind of fuel for BNB chain. Yeah, so BNB chain, it's layer 1 protocol. So developers can build different kind of solutions and decentralized apps on BNB chain. The good thing is that fees are pretty low and it's pretty fast. So this is why BNB chain actually it's one of the leaders among blockchains in the world. Yeah, and BNB chain it also has some kind of use cases within our trading platform. So if you use BNB chain, so you will be able to pay less in fees.
And what is the market share of Binance in general in the crypto industry? Could you say some kind of number? I've seen some reports, they suggest it's about 90%. Is that true?
I'm not sure about 90%, and market share is always some kind of volatile thing, right? But definitely we can say that Binance is one of the leaders in the world in terms of crypto and blockchain.
And don't you think that such dominance contradicts the principles of decentralization and crypto in general?
I think that overall, like if anyone wants to go and create a crypto exchange or some protocols, they can go and do that. And actually, when we say about like, leadership position, I think that crypto is developing very fast, right? And they will definitely be, they definitely appear as some kind of new businesses, new crypto exchanges, new protocols, and new blockchains. For example, we saw recently with OpenSea, right? It was some kind of it was dominating the NFT market. But then Blur appeared, and they became number one, I don't know, in a month or 2 months.
But then, Binance has this position to acquire these small companies because of its dominance. So don't you think it's a bit threatening for the future? Could it be threatening for the industry in general?
As I mentioned, I think that, blockchain space, it's about open source, right? Again, if you have you have Uniswap, you can make fork and you can launch the same. So it's very, I would say, it's very complicated to monopolize blockchain space, blockchain area, because so many great minds, and it's open source. You can build exchanges or protocols, and given that right now there's ChatGPT and all that stuff, right? It's you can definitely then try to do that by yourself as well.
So let's switch the topic. Last year, Binance invested about $500 million in Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. Currently, at this point, is Binance an investor in Twitter, and does it hold an equity stake at newly created company called X Corporation?
I'm not so deep into details in terms of involvement into Twitter, but overall, speaking about Twitter, I think that right now, Elon Musk, he has I would say more relevant things to do more than Web3 area, right? Because he's restructuring the company. A lot of people were fired, right? So
EV business is quite hard to manage.
Yeah. So he definitely has a lot of challenges in terms of managing Twitter right now. So this is why I don't think that crypto and Web3, it's it's his high priority at this current moment.
Okay, while we are on Elon, he's a sort of influencer in terms of crypto, because every time he posts something or he replaces Twitter's logo with the Dogecoin symbol, markets go crazy, go nuts even. Do you think that the influence that he has on the market could be interpreted as unhealthy sometimes, and could be considered more manipulation even?
I think, it's an interesting question. Because some people, they can say, he's writing something in Twitter about Dogecoin, right, and it's pumping up. But at the same time, if you prohibit him to do that, people will say that, there is no free market.
No freedom of speech.
No freedom of speech, right? So I think it's pretty complicated thing to find right balance, and also. I think it's more about education of people. People should understand that, how crypto markets are working, right? And what are the risks. So I think this is what we as an industry can do better. Because right now, a lot of people, they think, Musk is writing about that. I will definitely, get some money if I will invest in Dogecoin right now. And people don't really understand all the risks. Yeah.
Okay, while we are on risks, recently many big, small crypto exchanges went bankrupt, and a lot of crypto assets were frozen in general globally. And at the same time, there were worries about Binance's liquidity. We remember that a lot of money during several days period, a lot of money were taken out of Binance accounts. Let me ask you, how solid is Binance financially today?
Binance is solid, and actually you can check, our wallets right now by yourselves. So we made it public, and we implemented that Merkle tree. So right now users, they can go and verify how much funds Binance Binance is holding at this current moment. And actually, like we want all the exchanges to do the same, because in this case, users, they at least understand like what assets exchange is holding, and like is it used for something or not. So this is why I think, right now industry there is a bit more transparency than it was before, like a year ago, for example.
What is the buffer rate you have for your liquid assets? Because we know that for banks, for instance, there is mandatory percentage that they have to have. But what is happening in terms of crypto exchanges?
In terms of crypto exchanges, actually, you should like keep funds one-to-one. Mm-hmm. Actually, if user
much stricter rules, I'd say.
Yeah. Actually, it's even stricter.
Yeah.
So the ratio is the same with Binance, right?
Yeah.
1-to-1. Okay. Let's assume, let's imagine that some sort of bank run happens, on Binance. What is Binance's strategy in that sense? What are you going to do, and how are you hedging those risks?
Actually, it almost happened like in the end of last year. Yeah, recently, like a lot of influencers were saying, like Binance will go bankrupt, you should take your money out. But as we saw, there were some like withdrawals, but people, they always like they're depositing, withdrawing. So there were like more withdrawals, but it's fine for us because again, we are keeping users' funds, right? And if they want to withdraw funds, we give them back. So for us, like there's no like additional like pressure.
Is it only FUD, or people begin to see some sort of, not negativity per se, but some sort of risks in centralized exchanges?
I think in terms of that specific situation, it was more about FUD. But overall, I think users, they also should understand the risks of keeping their funds on centralized exchanges, right? With Binance it's fine, but we saw some exchanges that went bankrupt, right, and never give back money to users. So this is why there is always like a good strategy for users to keep money like in different exchanges, hot and cold wallets, right? Because in this case you will diversify risks.
Gleb, is Binance too big to fail? If this is all theoretical, of course, but still,
I don't see right now the situation how Binance can fail.
All right. How would you rate the current situation of the market in general? Are we still in bear market, or is there any kind of signs of bull market starting? Do we see any kind of trajectory of going upwards?
Yeah, I would say that this year will be definitely complicated for crypto industry. Most likely we are in the beginning of bull market and bear market is over. But at the same time, we see that some regulatory pressure. For example, in the US, there are a lot of discussions, especially from SEC, whether all tokens are securities or not. So I think in the US, US regulators, they give pretty hostile signals to the market, right? And even Coinbase recently, they mentioned that, should we stay in the US or not, right? So those kind of like regulatory actions, they can definitely add more volatility to the market. So it means that, we can go up, but then we can go down. So I think that this year there will be a lot of volatility. But also at the same time, if we speak about like regulatory situation, some countries, they're becoming more open to crypto. For example, recently Hong Kong, so they announced a new strategy in terms of attracting Web3 companies. So local Hong Kong banks, they started to work with crypto businesses. There were a lot of events, and I heard that a lot of companies, they will relocate, to Hong Kong. So when there are some issues, with regulators in one country, there will always be other countries that will become more loyal to crypto.
And
so
Saudi Arabia also started new Web3 and tech strategy. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what could be catalyst for next bull run? Could it be Fed, cutting rates, or could this be halving of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think all those factors they can affect, right? We saw that the previous bull run was affected by rates, right?
Essentially zeroing those rates.
Yeah, so halving is also one of the factors, what crypto enthusiasts consider in terms of its market growing or not. Yeah, so, and actually I think that this year there is much more confidence in crypto than it was before. So because of all these like political and economical issues that we see in the world, right, crypto actually is doing pretty good.
And bankruptcy of banks.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why I think that, confidence of investors to crypto is growing. Yeah, and in terms of bull run, it's also tough to say what specific, I would say area or like section of, of crypto will grow. Right now we see that there are a lot of new like layer 2 and layer 1, blockchains. Such as like Arbitrum, Optimism, and others, they're launching, and there's a lot of hype around them. Also, I think that GameFi actually will grow a lot. So we still didn't see some strong games, in GameFi.
In the last bull run, it was almost non-existent at that point.
Yeah, Axie is a great game, but still
it's not that entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be honest.
So, and we see that a lot of capital is going into GameFi industry. So, for example, recently Razer, they launched like 100 million fund to invest into Web3. So definitely sooner or later there will be some kind of strong, gaming projects. And I think that it can be another like catalyst for the whole industry to grow.
Yeah. But what benefit could bring transition of a particular game onto blockchain, and how we're big in gamers ourselves, and for me, for instance, before I see AAA game transitioning onto blockchain or some sort of different Web3 technology, I'm still not convinced about this. That this relationship is needed. So
yeah, I think the major value is that if you keep, for example, your weapon. It will be linked to, you will keep it on your wallet. It means that, admins, they can't just like ban your account and everything that you were trying to achieve right now, it's gone, right? So, this weapon will always like, you will always keep it on your wallet and nobody will have access to it. And actually, you can also like, do some kind of program, you can program this weapon, what will happen with it, and it can be used not only in one game, but in different games. And for example, another angle, it is about achievements, right? So right now, different games, they have different achievement systems, and publishers, they can have like, achievement systems, but they're not, I would say, they're not integrated with each other, right? But you can have just like protocol with all those achievements in games. And also it's a great tool for publishers to also attract, I would say, a loyal audience, because, for example, you play in some game, you got those achievements, and they're not like, actually it's NFTs, but they're not transferable. And then when you like connect wallet, for example, for another game, those developers, they can give you like additional features. So it's also about like loyalty program. And in the end of the day, market of gaming assets, it's huge, and people still trade it. Yeah, but they like trade it like or in cash or in some platforms, right?
Or it's Steam, and you have to pay fees of 30% or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
So I think that like blockchain can definitely like make this market more democratic, I would say, and give access to everyone, and like with lower fees, But we still lack, there is still not a lot of marketplaces, protocols. I think we are in the very beginning.
Let's move to a bit tougher topic, than games. You know, you just mentioned that the confidence of investors is rising, but at the same time we can see that the confidence of regulators is a bit shaky. You know,
Yeah.
and this could be seen in the United States, where some regulators are investigating Binance and Binance US and CZ over alleged violations of U.S. commodities and securities law. You know, considering this regulatory pressure that exists in the U.S., I'll be very direct. How grim is Binance's American future?
So as I mentioned before, the whole crypto industry has issues in the U.S., right? Other exchanges, they're also under pressure. But regarding this specific case, we should understand that the majority of those claims, they are related to early days of Binance, when Binance just appeared as a company, right? Of course, 5 years ago, there were different kind of standards in terms of KYC, AML, right? A lot of exchanges during those days didn't have KYC at all. And actually, Binance was one of the early adopters of mandatory KYC. And during those days it was a bit different. And of course, we didn't have 1,000 compliance people as we have right now. So it was a different kind of different situation, like a small startup. So this is why the majority of claims, they're related to 2018, 2019 to those to those years.
Unfortunately, it's been several years of active crypto in the global market, right? But unfortunately, we still see that crypto industry in general is full of fraudsters and scammers. From your perspective, what should be done to protect the industry from these sort of organizations and these sort of people?
Yeah, we should understand that in areas with new technologies, there will be always fraudsters and criminals, because there is no regulation. And even in regulated areas with banks, we can see some kind of fraudsters that can send you some messages, send me some money, etc. Right? What can we do? So definitely there will be more regulation going forward, right? And it will help to prevent the industry from some fraudsters and criminals. But I think it's not only the task of regulators, right? I think the industry should also, as I mentioned, try to educate users more, because sometimes people, they don't really understand how this is working, because still blockchain, it is a pretty sophisticated technology, right? And of course, keeping money on cold wallets or hot wallets, it can be not an easy task. For a lot of people.
Seed phrase, where did you hide it or save it?
Exactly.
It's pretty complicated.
It's pretty complicated. Yeah. So this is why people, they always try to find some easy ways, right? And this is where criminals and fraudsters appear. So we should definitely invest more into education, right? Trying to explain people how this is working. And I think that the time will pass, I would say financial literacy in terms of crypto will continue to grow. Yeah.
What does Binance do in this regard?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have Binance Academy, so we are working with different universities. We're trying to explain students how this is working, right? So we have a lot of content and material, content that users can read and understand how this is working. Right, so this is what we're doing, and even even on our exchange, right, we have innovative zone where we're saying that, guys, you should be a bit more careful, because those kind of assets, they can be a bit more risky. So that's what we can do. Yeah, that's our contribution to the growth. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about AI revolution that is upon us. In recent months, AI has become truly a global sensation, and I could say a buzzword. What is the role of AI in development of crypto industry, and could this be as a new catalyst for crypto in general?
I think that AI can be a useful tool for for developers, because you can definitely, AI can definitely help you to do that, faster, to write all those smart contracts, etc.
And without some errors and mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think developers, they will just will have to do more audit, and that's basically it, right? If it is writing a great code, fantastic. Also, in terms of Binance, I think that we can definitely implement, ChatGPT or those AI tools into customer support, because sometimes people, they complain that they don't receive like fast answer, and I think this is where ChatGPT can definitely improve processes. Also, I think that it can be used, Midjourney specifically can be used in NFT space. So, for example, we had a project called Picasso. So everyone could mint their own like NFTs on Binance, but it will be like some like updated avatar, right, by AI. So I think those type of things will definitely continue to develop. So NFT developers, they will use like Midjourney, right, to generate all those like images. I think there will be another question: how we will understand whether it is generated by AI or generated by like digital artists specifically. And then recently there was a case that some AI generated image won some prize.
Competition, yeah.
So
good job to AI.
But at the same time, AI has drawbacks as well. And let me play the role of devil's advocate here. We all know that Bitcoin's strength relies on cryptographic encryption. That today is very difficult, to say the least, to hack. But what happens if AI, together with or built upon quantum computer, one day hacks it? What happens to the crypto industry then?
To be honest, I don't think that it will happen, because there are still like some kind of developers community, right? And if they see that something can probably happen, they can take some actions and steps, and like miners, so they will all like vote in order to make some kind of upgrades. So yeah, to be honest, I don't think that it is a big threat, to the industry. Bitcoin is some kind of like digital gold, and I think you will have to like spend like enormous resources in order to try to hack it. But the outcome, it's pretty unpredictable. I mean, so I don't think it is some kind of big threat.
Okay, let me ask you last question, and let me pick your brains on this topic. It's a bit trivial, but what would happen if Satoshi Nakamoto reveals his true identity and proves it? Then what happens to the crypto industry?
I think everyone in crypto industry is trying to understand who is Satoshi, right? And to resolve this mystery. But in the end of the day, I don't think that we'll find out. And I think it was pretty smart from Satoshi's side to stay in the shadow. Because we see what's happening with some projects or founders. There are also some there can be like some risks, some threats, and I think that Bitcoin is one of the like biggest I would say inventions of the 21st century, right? And I think that's it's good for all of us to not to know who is Satoshi.
Well, Gleb, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the very interesting interview.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gleb.
And that's all for today. Till next Sunday. And before that, follow us on BM.G.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.